All right. So, past few past couple months have been interesting, and I've been trying to not talk a lot about it. And the main reason is that while I have definite opinions on things, I didn't exactly feel necessary that it was going to be something that I felt I need to rebroadcast. You've already seen it 20 times, 30 times. I don't want to talk about breaking events. I want to talk about things that are troubling me because of where I'm at. And the there's a few things that I'm rehashing from the past couple of weeks. First, I want to talk about Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice for the United States. We all agree. He has, over the past few decades, really become a conservative icon. And once that's Alito. What's between Alito and Thomas right now? Those are the two big conservative guys we have. Clarence Thomas has been targeted. Hey, Pop Cotton. He's been targeted because race is an issue here. Apparently, the Democrats, Joe Biden especially, he can't handle when there's a black man that espouses Republican talking points or views. And Senator Joe had a real issue with getting him confirmed. He was a big dissenting voice in allowing Mr. Thomas to ascend into the SCOTUS. So whenever we were watching Supreme Court walk through and they had their dog and pony show from the left and center, Clarence Thomas made sure that he let everybody know lawfully he was going to be very judicious with Joe Biden, which we all can agree is on the decline of life. He's a lot closer to the grave than where a baby should be. In fact, POTUS sniffus is in real trouble. And we have this issue in America now because 2 months ago, SCOTUS came out with this ruling where we have Roe v. Wade being rightfully knocked aside. And I say rightfully knocked aside because the way that they passed Roe v. Wade and made it legal on the federal issues, there was no basis for this before. They invented law. They were not traditionalists. They were constructionalists, and they had no basis for doing this. And so the SCOTUS came around so many hundred trimesters later and said, no, this goes back to the states. And it caused a mass from everybody on the left and some people on the right. Not everybody. Some people on the right, most people on the left, especially the vocal left. We used to have a thing called pro-life Democrats. We used to have a select few Democrats where you could count on them to weigh things with logic, and they would go about with a specific set of questions, and they knew how to frame an argument and make it to where there's a conclusion that would be logical, even if they morally disagreed with it. They would go to it. But now they have broomed out all of the Zell Millers. All of those people have aged, and they're no longer part of the party. Now we have the youthful, angry twats known as the Squad. And you have these people screeching because how dare the Supreme Court take away our constitutional right to abortion? Well, you never had a constitutional right to abortion. There's very few things in the Constitution. There's very few things. There's no amendment talking about abortion. It's not a basic health right. This is something that goes back to the state where it's at. And this is where you're going to see, as much as the angry left is screeching right now, you're going to see a lot of people in the medical community really start to place high value on California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, all these other centers of blueness, of Democrat havens. You're going to see all these places be destination points for big companies, because big companies, for some odd reason, like Disney. I don't know why Disney is taking up the topic where they need to discuss abortion and we need to have abortion. I don't get it, because that cuts into your audience. That's how you're going to make money, fucker. By not having a bunch of kids, you're limiting the amount of toys and kids movies that are going to be produced. And now, I mean, not that I give a shit. I don't have a kid living with me. I'm not going to go watch anything Pixar now. I mean, now that we've got Lightyear and the new people are involved, hail, Small Town Republic. You have all these people screeching that we need to have full abortion everywhere. And there's part of me that's thinking, wow, I never knew so many Moloch worshipers were in the Democrat Party. But I guess it's like 60 to 80% of the Democrat left pretty much willingly sacrifices children. And no matter what you want to say, no matter what you want to counter me with or call me names, I honestly just don't understand why we need to have abortion so fucking hard. Because I know that after the age 30, some reproductive issues with adults pop up more so in others in the other communities. But you really see a lot of people where they tell you this heartbreaking tale: we want to have more children, we can't. Or my wife or my husband is sterile, or they took a bad blow at work, or she had a hysterectomy, so it's just now a recreational center. You have all of these situations where you hear this after you're 30 years of age. You'll hear it more and more as time goes on, and more shitty GMOs and more shitty medicines and poisons and toxins are added to your miserably regulated food, which isn't good food at all. I'm telling you, if you've got a farmer's market nearby, use it, and make sure that you talk to these people. You know, make sure they understand various pesticides and various carcinogens, and a lot of the people that are involved with that, the cleaner, greener movements, as far as the farmers market are concerned, these people will know their stuff a lot better than somebody who just goes around with a shopping list, not giving a shit. Oh, it's a General Mills product, it's good for me. Oh, Procter and Gamble would never poison me. Fuck you. Thank you, whatever cast. You have this mentality where all of these people are screeching about the need for abortion, and they need to just be forthright and discuss, okay, so this is now a state's issue. We're planning all of our medical getaways for people that are pregnant or pregnancy people. We're planning all these places. We're getting frequent flyer miles. We're mass booking flights, because we know that our 18 to 30-year-old workers and staff, they can't help it. They go out and have one shot of vodka too many, one Jägermeister, and they gotta fly out to Boston, or they got to go to Chicago. They got to go somewhere where they can get cut open and you can have the baby extracted and sliced to ribbons and just, put on the altar. And, oh, we can't say that in public, but this shit's going on because the United States has been a fucking center of Baal worship for so long. And so many people are going to just have their minds bug out, like, oh my God, he's talking about an Old Testament deity. No, dude. How else could you explain all of this madness that's going on? Because you can't say it's following the science. When you follow the science, you find two genders. You find out that only people born with a uterus can birth other people. That's it. Otherwise, it requires surgery and man-made reconstruction of things. And I'm sorry, sir, but you're going to have to shit out a child someday. I hope you have a high pain tolerance. I don't understand where that's just disgusting as fuck. You people are sick. So anyway, Clarence Thomas, beautiful man, he says, no, states' rights issue. And the rest of the states, instead of complaining and screeching loudly, this is a boon in these trying times. Now you have everybody being able to, like, hey, we're going to throw money at California. We're going to give money to Illinois. We're going to give money to all these horrible fucking blue cities. These sanctuary abortion cities are going to be popping up left and right, where you can, no matter what, get yourself sliced open, and that little parasite can get extracted, and you can put them on the Moloch altar. That's exactly what you have, and where they should be taking that argument, not where they discuss worshiping Moloch openly. Don't worry, Alex Jones will do that for you. But I'm saying that ever since then, the left hasn't stopped screeching about it. And what disturbs me on a local basis is I listen to 1200 AM because that's the only station my work truck gets in San Antonio. So I get this stick in this truck, and all right, what are they talking about? If it's Sean Hannity, 90% of the time it gets turned off. I'll listen to chip tunes from the Commodore 64 before I listen to Sean Hannity. I just can't stand the guy's voice. So I'm listening to this, what was it? The Monday, 2 Mondays after SCOTUS has this ruling, and it's been 2 weekends now, and we're all discussing all these problems. We might have problems with abortions, and we don't know what's going on. And for a half hour, the entire radio station started talking about how much they needed abortion, which they really don't. This is something that most people after the age 30, 35, they don't worry about. Hysterectomies, menopause, all these things. They pop up, and it makes it turn into a recreational center. So I'm getting to listen to this, and I'm kind of flummoxed because this is supposed to be a conservative talk radio station, but then it dawns on me the scheduling is conservative. The news is propaganda. The news is garbage. And ever since all this has taken place, I tune in less and less to the news on a daily basis because it's the same shit. Oh no, there's another super virus coming out. The COVID ninja's coming out, and it's going to kill everybody. You got to get your boosters. I've been boosted 7 times, and I can say thankfully, because I had my 7 or 8 boosters, I had a good chance of surviving it. And I'm Anthony Fauci, and I told people back when AIDS was a thing that you had to put masks on the homosexuals because they would spew the gay sperm out, and they would infect everybody in the neighborhood with the little AIDS virus because it was an aerosol. That was in 1984. This fucker's not been right since then. In my corner of the world, there is, hey, Sci-Fi is Life, thank you. In my corner of the world, there's this company called Steve Jackson Games. They deal with RPGs and board games. And on July 8th, they had a Roe v. Wade blog post. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, this is madness. Here's a guy in Austin. I didn't realize he was in Austin. I would have not bought so much of his material since then if I would have known this. But he's screeching on his blog about this ruling. I'm like, I'm sorry, Steve. You're not able to get a abortion here in Austin anymore. I'm sure you can find one at one of the many blue-funded hospitals that the city has, and they're going to help out Any of the staff were affected by what's going down. Note, this is not an announcement of simple, we will pay to get abortion patients out of state policy. I think such policies are good-hearted but flawed. I don't believe a woman's choices should be between herself, her doctor, and the personnel department. So he goes into this whole diatribe about how he doesn't understand civics. And I thought you were a thinking person, Steve. Steve Jackson Games is all as much as I used to value their products and their people, no more. No more. And I love the Ninja Burger game because the game is written to where ninjas have a burger business, and you order it, you don't see it coming, it arrives, and you pay the ninja, and they go off. And whenever I play this game, I love taking the stereotypical Japanese accent. Oh, very good. And I love doing the horrible Japanese accents that I have. How you, multi-gunman? How you doing? And it's just frustrating that I have one less company that I'm going to be able to value with my dollar because they would rather segment their audience into, I don't want you paying for my games. I want to create games for these people over here. And that doesn't make business sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me at all. It's like I'm watching the crumbling walls and edifices of Disney and Star Wars and Hasbro, and I'm watching them just crumble apart because they got this good, we're getting woke so we can go broke mindset. And here's this little bitty board game creator, Steve Jackson. I want to join you and fuck up my entire line of thinking and never make another dollar because, the conservatives do outnumber the majority of screeching liberals. So, Steve Jackson Games, I feel sorry for you, but you don't understand civics and you don't understand law and the Constitution, which screeches idiocy to me because you, for all things, you wrote role-playing games. Role-playing games are math and English, and you come up with logical situations with probable conclusions, and you give those directives to people, the directors of their table, the game masters, the dungeon masters, storytellers, host, whatever you call them. And you say, just follow these rules. They're pretty logical. But then when it comes to a nationwide thing, you fucking lose your mind. You want everybody to think like Austin is normal. Like Twitter is a 3-bed, 2-bath. Everybody lives in it. No. Fuck you. And fuck you, Steve Jackson Games. You're done. You're worse than being dead to me. Then, not too long ago, on Tuesday, I believe it was the 11th, I'm just listening to the propaganda in my work truck. And apparently, sex is something that is hard for liberal people because they don't want to label something. They don't want to say, that's a woman. We have the new SCOTUS lady. Which she doesn't have a backbone in her body when it comes to making a simple observation like, this has a penis, it's a man. This has a woman over here. She's got a vagina. She's got an axe wound. It's a woman. She doesn't want to get involved. Okay, that's fine. Just so we can say we had our first black SCOTUS person, we'll push you through. And the majority of them pushed her through. She's half as intelligent as Sotomayor. And Sotomayor is one of the least intelligent women I've ever seen with a doctorate. You have Berkeley law professor Kiara Bridges talking to Senator Josh Hawley. Hawley asks her a simple question. And she goes, stupid. And she explains that just saying that the transgender community is more likely to have members commit suicide. And she accused Hawley of asking questions that could lead to violence against the trans community. Hawley appeared annoyed with these accusations and eventually asked Bridges if that was how she treats her students. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women? the senator asked Bridges during a Senate Judiciary Committee on abortion rights. Again, we're talking about abortion rights. Like, they just cannot give this up. This abortion, it must be legal and pushed everywhere. Because apparently we are no better than the Incas or the Aztecs who murdered their children by the scores. Unless it was, the chieftain's child or the chieftain's best man's child. We can't have, any of these illegitimate children running around, oh, those two have been together for 10 years, that child's illegitimate. I have no value for societies that place a value on the slaughter of children. And I don't care for being canceled. I don't give a shit. I've already been canceled by YouTube. So, yeah, we got to bring the axe wound back. We do. So, you have this lady inferring that Josh Hawley, a senator, is going to cause a bunch of trans people just commit suicide. Self-delete, because this man, this cis male over here is stating things that are hateful and violent to your culture, which I didn't realize the trans community was now a culture. I didn't know the trans community had a country of their own, had a currency of their own, had a vernacular all their own. Apparently they do have a vernacular all their own, because now they're calling women and other people with uteruses, they have called them birthing persons. And Kiara Bridges says the stupidest thing, which I have never had respect for Berkeley. Berkeley is to what other college towns are, is what Austin is to an economic center. I value it very, very little. Many cis women have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy, Bridges responded. There are also trans men who are incapable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy. Seemingly unsatisfied with Bridges' answer, Hawley common sense asks her, your view, the core of this right is about what? I want to recognize your line of questioning is transphobic, Senator Hawley, and it comes up trans people to violence. It opens up trans people to violence, Bridges responded. Wow. Are you saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women can have pregnancies? Hawley asked her. Bridges, an academic expert on race, class, and reproductive rights, and be it as it may, she's not a white woman, so she has a higher social value than normal. She's in that 12% category, if you want to know. She notes that studies have shown 1 in 5 trans people have attempted suicide. You know the reason why people try to commit suicide? Because there's something desperately wrong with their life. My own wife has had problems with dysmorphia or dysphoria, or just general unsatisfaction with the way her body aged. And I think a lot of women will get that as time goes on, and the best way you can respond to that as a family member is you just love them. You just tell them, like, I don't really care. I didn't marry you for your body. I married you for what you got in your upstairs. I married you for the capacity you have to be a good person. Apparently, in the trans community, maybe those phrases aren't said a whole lot. Maybe it's a lot more puppy play and, hey, let's spread monkeypox a lot more, because right now that seems to be where the majority of this bullshit's spreading. And I'm going to infer that the alternative lifestyle people are the ones out there spreading this miserable little pox disease that is gaining popularity among people that don't have a normal straight relationship. And they feel they have to be perverts in public. That's where you see it. That's where you see all this garbage. So I'm having real issues with somebody like Kiara Bridges being a person with a respected position, because while she might be educated and she passed a lot of exams and she wrote lots of papers and killed lots of trees, she has zero economic or educational value to me, because she's spreading misinformation. She's doing this on the taxpayer dime of California. She's doing this for no other reason than to try and change our culture, which, not saying cisnormative is normal, but getting away from the nuclear family is the goal of the modern left. They want to get away from one woman, one man, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, and dog. And they've done a good job of destroying that since the 1970s. And you could say that would be the wages of sin against us getting rid of prayer in schools. You can call me what, and I don't care what I get called about this. I don't. I'm not going to delete your comments if you call me all sorts of bad names in my comment section. That's fine. But get your monkeypox boosters. Get your monkeypox boosters. If you guys don't get your monkeypox boosters, just being in the same area, you're going to get an aerosol spray, and then you're going to have the mumps, and you're going to have the monkeypox. I'm just waiting for that to come out of his little mouth. I'm waiting for monkeypox 2.0, the aerosol version that doesn't require long cuddle times in puppy play areas, because that seems to be where the majority of this shit's been spreading at. And the problem that we had, there was a Darklands festival in Antwerp, Belgium. That was where this crap was for the most part. And since then, monkeypox has kind of gotten more active, but it's really weird that they had a simulation on monkeypox just in February of... Anyway, shh, quiet. So Kiara Bridges is there, and she's actively trying to dismantle common terms within relationships, and they're doing their best to try and pervert sexual roles in America. You all know this. When you woke up at the age of 12 with a hard-on, you kind of experimented to see what would go on, or whatever age it was where your body started to get that growth spurt. You have this, and we all kind of figured out what's going on. 1 in 5 people have the tendency to be gay. Most of us in the remaining 4 out of 5 don't care. Most. There are some people that are in the angry gay side that hate the straights. And there's a very small minority of straight people that can't stand the gays. The main thing is do not play with the other community if you can't get along with them. You can't be civil to them. If you can't be friendly to them, let them police themselves. If they fail to police themselves, we have to revisit this. But it goes along that entire Roadhouse mentality. Be nice until it's time not to be nice anymore. This lady, and if Berkeley is going to push garbage like this, maybe all of Berkeley just needs to get defunded. And maybe you parents out there in the West Coast, maybe the parents on the left coast need to wake up and smell what this is cooking, because this is a serious problem. The fact that they're trying to talk about how you asking common sense questions could cause violence in a small minority of people, and that is a crime. No, we're just talking. We're asking questions. You trying to control a narrative, you trying to manipulate the language, and you are molesting the language, actually. She is severely perverting the language. There's not a reason for us to tolerate this, and she needs to be shut down. She needs to be defunded. Glad to see that we have a lot of people in chat tonight. Thanks everybody for showing up for this impromptu stream. Let me go through the chat and just say welcome. Thank you, Papa Cotton, again for swinging by. Small Time Republic, whatever cast. Wes, how you doing, sir? Travis, Jaden1975, Small Time Republic again. Shadow and Sun, awesome one. Good to see you here. Sci-Fi is Life. Multi-Gunman, Connell. Man, I actually have a chat that's kind of blowing up on me. So it's hey, Legion of Myth is here too. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is along with the perversion of our language, what can people do to help deter this? Well, first off, you can not value the argument given by these leftoids when they come and they assault you verbally and tell you that you're a bad person for wanting to not allow them to ruin the English language as it is, the English quote unquote Americanized language as it is. And you can fight this. There are lawyers out there that, even though we're in a pandemic and an economic free fall, and we don't know where we're going to land as far as that's concerned until we wake up, we can fight this. And there are plenty of people out there that are professionals that would help you retain your income should you get attacked. And I'm talking about people that are being doxxed, people that are going to have problems, because this isn't going away. If you work at a big company, you have to just kind of sign, yeah, I agree not to talk about hate speech, which that's bullshit. And you should be able to say, I refuse. It's a condition of employment. Do you understand, Mr. Bruce? For me to say words is not hate speech. It's up to you to understand what I'm saying. I'm not a hateful person. I want you to be a thinking person so we can think together and try to overcome this. By you being an emotional basket case, by you allowing yourself to be swayed by this new correct think, you need to help me make sure this company stays viable. But nobody has really started to do that in big companies yet. Nobody at Exxon is saying ESG isn't working for us. Nobody at Disney has stood up and said, hey, listen, I got to quit. You guys have made some bombs of movies here for a while. And I used to really like Star Wars, but now I want to slam my Millennium Falcon into a wall or something. Nobody's said that yet, but we can help encourage it. One way we can do that is we can defund these companies. Yes, I said that. You can take away money from these companies and do that. The other problem is that the government, your local government, you can push for people to be put into positions. You can go to your town council meetings. You can be involved. And you have to be, because the time for sitting by and expecting somebody else to do your work is over. We have too much of a mindset in this world to where I've done enough. I gotta, relax or do something. You're in a culture war. When you're relaxing and you're doing something, you're actively giving money, time, and energy to someone else. By you not helping do your part in this, what's actually happening is that you're kind of giving the go-ahead to Amazon, big media. We'll just say big media, to make garbage content. If you're not out there supporting the Daily Wire, if you're not out there tuning out these garbage companies, if you're not out there throwing money to podcasts that do deserve a few bucks here and there a month, if you're not doing that, then what you're doing is actively saying, go ahead, big government, take my money and distribute it amongst your cronies, the weasels that have gotten involved with politics, the Time Warners, the AT&Ts, the miserable fucking big companies that are helping take apart our country brick by brick. And that's what you can do. That is a solution to it. And the solution to it has always been about money. Money is a tool. All right. If you don't hate my speech, you haven't heard me talk. Hey, Rosetta. Yeah, I know. Getting people to hate you is a lot easier than getting them to like you. Papa Cotton says maybe everything would be better if we just mutilate our genitals. No, please don't. I need you to make more kids. Really. Hard pass, awesome one. Papa Cotton, I never thought of that. Let me get this hammer and. Okay. We do have some good news. Let me see what Ripa's. Young Ripa. Wow. The subreddit has gotten rid of all the Rippaverse discussions. So the word that's come into play at Reddit now for people that are these authoritarians that don't want to discuss about Rippaverse or EVS or anybody that's the right of center or even the center, they've now called them predators. Predditors. That's great. Let's see. Comic book subreddit. Good God. It's already at $2.4 million for the day for Eric's Kickstarter. It's not really a Kickstarter for him. Eric July went out and he made his own comic book. It's a 96-page piece. Listen, I'm not going to jerk off Rippa. 96 pages, and within just less than a week, he's at $2.5 million. And he went out and he bought offices. He's got people ready. He's got the product ready to go. It's not like Kickstarter where if we make so much money, we'll do this. All he wanted to do is make $100,000. He's at $2.5 million. That right there. The problem that I have with Rippa isn't a problem I have with Rippa. It's the problem that I have with the black community that is on the Democrat train with Joe Biden. And they're talking about how you shouldn't be able to make this much money without my help. And I'm talking about Black Sands. We talked about this at Machiny Stream. Black Sands is out there bitching and complaining and trying to say anything negative they can about Eric July because he's out there. He's made his own materials. He's got his own stuff ready to go. He's got everything lined up. And how dare you not use us? You know, it's kind of like you ain't black. You're not part of our culture, you know, and he wants to ban everybody off his Twitter and Instagram, which I find hilarious because he wants Eric July to come across like every other po man and get on bended knee and say, listen, sir, I've been really good on this plantation, but I do need to have some money so I could produce my product. And Rippa didn't do that. Rippa's pretty much stand-up guy. You all know who I'm talking about here. And I don't even think Rippa said much more than it's like it's crabs in a bucket. That stream is all I needed to hear for what's going on. I've already seen that ride play out before. I don't have to answer to nobody but my customers. So for this, you know, for just that short period of time, I got to give him some serious credit. He's done great. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Saudi Arabia and Joe Biden. So we had, all rhinos fail to test of money. Yeah, they do. They really do. Because our nation is giving up on an energy program. They want us to obviously switch over to their green initiative bullshit, which they can turn on and off at their whim. You have Biden going over to Saudi Arabia on bended knee to ask for oil, but that never happened. He never asked for oil. In fact, if I am thinking right, Macron told him 2 or 3 weeks ago, Saudi Arabia is 100,000 gallons a day from being tapped out. They're pushing as hard as they can. They really don't want to push much harder for the rest of us. Biden, you have to figure out something for the world to survive because we need oil. And it's kind of impressive that even Macron and the rest of Europe is seeing this. You're going to see a change in other countries where they get off of the teat of Putin and they're going to go for their own nuclear power programs. They're going to go for coal. They're going to go for oil or natural gas. They're going to go for anything they've got under their soil because they are not able to survive like this. And West says he wouldn't remember if he did. Joe Biden wouldn't remember what he asked. And that's the truth because Joe Biden he gets on the tarmac in Israel. Is this where I'm supposed to be? No, sir. And they reposition him 5 feet over and then walk him down the red carpet. It's like we get Weekend at Bernie's as a presidency. And I never would have thought in my years, in my 40s, after my peak, that I would be watching our nation with the most uh, run down, beat up, mentally challenged president I've ever seen. And what? Wait, Wes, hold on just a second. I'm going to invite you in here. I want Wes to come in here and talk about this. While I'm waiting on that, Canada and the USA have enough to supply ourselves and be exporters. Yet here we are over here in the Middle East kissing the Saudis' asses. It's like our governments want us destroyed. They do. Our governments want to see us just crumble. They don't like the population they have to govern over us. They want to see us unable to produce, unable to work, unable to live and breathe and make strong families. They want to import a population that's ready to kiss their ass, which is why you have so many people of the mindset of the tyranny that they are begging these other nations to just stock us full. Ah, damn it. He says, I'm away from the studio. Okay. I'm going to look over this. NDAA prosecutes. Give me a moment here. Wow. Huh. Okay. So this is something that started popping up in 2020, and it's a continuing story today. But they have sanctions on Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and they're wanting to impose a form of restraint on Biden for those actions he's got, to where we're going to be rewarding Russia and other actors that are involved with the Nord Stream 2 pipelines. And they're trying to redirect the United States' efforts at energy production to where we actually do drilling over here, where we have an abundance of it. For those of you that don't know, I worked in oil and gas for over 7 years, and I was able to see many readouts after the stages were done of where exactly we would be having our next work be performed at. I know a lot of places in South Texas and in Louisiana that are very friendly to fracking, because a lot of times what my company was doing at C&J Energy Services, now it's next tier, which is what happens. You do this merry-go-round action. You have a company which they will send you out and you do a frac job. And the first frac job you'll do on a site, you'll have about 20 to 24 trucks usually, and you use all that horsepower that these pumps on the trailers. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Let me show you. Images. Okay. Yeah, there's Big Red. Oh, oh, oh. Share screen. All right. So I didn't work at this company, but this is one of our main competitors. This is, I believe, it's a Halliburton pump, either that or Weatherford. But you have this huge thing right here, and this is the pump that you find on the back of a frac pump. You get 20 trucks like this in the formation, and all the pipeline is nailed together by you, your shoulders, and you nail all these to a wellhead. You generate a bunch of horsepower with these. I mean, this SOB has got about 6 gears that we would go up or down with in order to regulate the pressure that we would use to break through what basically is the Earth's crust and get to product that we had found before or we have detected. And we would get into these areas with angled drilling, and we would first we'd shove in acid, and you shove in acid and it helps break away a lot of the shale. And then after you've got the acid percolating for about maybe 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how deep it is. I mean, a lot of times the wells I was at were like 3.5 to to 4 miles deep in 2012. 2014, things shifted, and I started doing more 1 to 2 mile depth wells. So you have all that, and we would let the acid bake in these. Hold on, Wes. Let me get over there. Wes wants to be modded. Channel. There you go, Wes. You're a mod. Okay. Copy. So you have all these frac pumps that they shove after they've pushed acid into this hole, which erodes a lot of the shale around that. And the acid is fairly strong and it's potent. I'll just say that. You have a lot of this, which is now open and the well is breathing. The pressure from down below is going to close that hole. So what you have to do afterwards, you have to cram sand particles in those crevices and shove a little bit of gel-addled water with the sand to push down into the well site. And those fractures are where the sand wedges in and allows the well to breathe, and it continues to breathe for a period of time. Now, that depends on how long and how deep it is and how long it's been since it was fracked. But a lot of times, after about 3 to 5 years, I was finding out we would go back to these old sites and we would have to refract them, which means we have to go blow another hole in the ground. Not blow open the crust, but we send a bomb down in the piping, and the little explosives would fissure, and that's how you get your fractures in the ground. Then you pump your acid again, and then you just, this has resupplied itself. Now, many times what's happened in the past 20 years, especially XTO, Exxon, and Marathon wells that I'm familiar with, a lot of times we would pull out a lot of that oil or natural gas, and then we would cap the well because it would start to just trickle upwards to us, and we wouldn't see it so much. But what we would do is we see this slow progress after the earth had pushed out as much as it could. We'd cap the well, and we just let it sit. 5 years or 10 years goes by and the wells would fill up. And a lot of times, I mean, I was on a crew that initially we did 20, 24 pumps at a time. After 2017, I never saw that. I saw 10 pumps or less. There were plenty of times where we only had 5 pumps because we would go back to a well that just needs to be recracked open and we can get everything that filled up from last time since we capped it. So hearing people talk about how fossil fuels are only, they're a limited resource, I always laugh at that because this is something that I've watched. I've seen this repeatedly happen. I believe I have it. Hold on, Wes. Imposition of sanctions with respect to 12 Nord Stream 2.313 imposition of sanctions no later than 15 days after 15 days of the enactment of this act. Any entity responsible for planning, construction, or operation of Nord 21 Stream 2 pipeline or successor. Holy shit. That's impressive. Search for that, Brave. So we're ready to prosecute people that are getting involved with the Nord Stream. This is what we need. This is the administration continues to oppose Nord Stream 2 pipeline, including our sanctions. We continue to work with Germany and other allies and partners to reduce risks posed by pipeline to Ukraine and frontline NATO and EU countries to push back against harmful Russian activities, including in the energy sphere. U.S. efforts to implement the commitments outlined in the July 21st joint statement of the United States and Germany on support for Ukraine, European energy security, and our climate goals are being led by the State Department Senior Advisor for Energy Security, Amos Hochstein, who was appointed on the 10th of August, 2021. Wow. So they've been working on this for a while, and this has been a situation that not a lot of us knew about that. Yeah, this is crazy. And America's at a bad spot because we just had 9.1% inflation reported. In August, it's going to be probably around 10% because it was 8% last month. It's going up by at least 1%. Yeah, I thank you for retracting that message there, Wes. But this is exactly the type of society that we don't need, because now we're seeing a lot of our individuals that I work with, that I know here in Texas, where life isn't so expensive. I'm not in California. Yeah, I'm not in California, but you have a situation here where we're having California like food prices. And now we're starting to see things like just buying a can of chicken is now $3. Correct link. Okay. Okay, I'll read this. I'll share this with you, and I'll read it as well, because this is somewhat important. People that don't think this is important, think about the fact that your wife, your girlfriend, your baby mama, she has to get around and she has to be able to deliver a child. Doesn't matter what she's doing otherwise, but she has to be able to travel with your child, and she has to be able to get from point A to point B without asking others for too much money. The value of this cannot be understated. Authorize appropriations for fiscal year 2022 for military activities, the Department of Defense, for military construction, and for defense activities, the Department of Energy, to prescribe military personnel strengths such as fiscal year for other purposes. Section 1, short title, may be cited as National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2022. Okay, we scroll through some of this. Navy programs. Hold on, let me see what Wes is wanting us to check. Yeah, I know. I hate the PDFs open up in the browser. This is, let's see. All right. Subtitle C, Other Matters. Extension of authority for Department of Defense, support for stabilization activities and national security interest in the United States. Notification relating for overseas humanitarian, disaster, and civic aid funds obligated in support of Operation Allies Refuge. Limitation on use of funds for 2022 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games in China. And it goes down here, imposition of sanctions with respect to Nord Stream 2. 1325. Okay. Section relating to Nord Stream 2 pipeline. No later than 180 days after the date of enactment of the Act, the SecDef and state shall jointly submit to the appropriate congressional committees a report that includes descriptions of hard currency and other financial benefits that Russian Federation will obtain through operation of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, analysis of the security risks of a completed pipeline to Ukraine, our European allies and partners in the NATO alliance. Just to flip back here, just to check out you guys. Hey, Palmies Minion. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff in this bill already that I'm seeing. This is, if you guys weren't being taxed enough already, this is going to add about another, looks like another 3 cents of taxes to every dollar, just on what my simple brain can do. And I just came up with that just by looking at everything on that list, because a part of that is energy infrastructure, which the government won't pay for, we will. Good God. Audits, synopsis, substantiated case. Descriptions of hard currency and other financial benefits of the Russian Federation will obtain through operation of this pipeline and eligibility for visas, admin, parole, or identified persons, corporate officers. Jesus H. Christ. Any entity, we're going to impose sanctions under paragraph 2 with respect to any entity responsible for planning, construction, or operation of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline or successor entity, and any other corporate officer or principal shareholder with controlling interest in the entity described in the clause, and impose sanctions under paragraph with respect to any entity responsible for planning, construction, or operation of Nord Stream 2 pipeline or successor entity. Good God. For those of you that are not following what I'm dropping here, this is the saber rattling. This is what could turn into a war situation. Because anytime you're having sanctions of this nature and the scope being planned out, and the United States couldn't defend itself with a wet paper bag right now. I don't know if you've been catching the information I've been dropping here and there, but we have a group of ships called the LCS, Littoral Combat Ships, and they replaced a lot of the frigates that were decommed from the Cold War era, Knox class, Ticonderoga destroyers that have been retired, etc. That scope of ship, and the LCSs don't have watertight integrity. They can't be driven over 8 knots, which basically for you would be about 20 mph or less. They won't be able to outrun torpedoes. They won't be able to keep your soldiers and sailors safe. They have stress fractures in over 70% of the fleet for the LCSs. They are improperly made. This is not the time for us to get a feckless, worthless president like this. And I'm not a person that wants to waste a lot of money on military. I mean, there's a lot of waste in that fucking military industrial complex. Termination of requirements relating to Nord Stream 2 shall terminate on the date that's 5 years after the date enactment of the act. God. This is a shit show. Thank you, Wes, for finding this. Hey, Multi-Gamma, have a good night, buddy. Sorry, I didn't mean to chase everybody off, but this is a dire situation. And worse yet, because our military is kind of constrained to people in Washington who want to discover white supremes in our nation's military instead of trying to broom out the Bolsheviks that have ruined our military and are still involved with it, even though they are not of actual active duty status. They're now councils or joint chiefs of staff. They're people in uniforms with huge shoulder boards full of medals and medallions that 70 or 60% of them, they really didn't do much to do. To get those. They wrote a letter, or they got a commendation, or maybe they were at a location that was considered in conflict. The majority of these guys and joint chiefs of staff that Biden's got right now are yes men. That's all they are. Just look at the Human Health Services Admiral lady, because she's an affront to me. For that thing to wear an admiral's outfit for Human Health Services and call her an admiral, no. There's some serious laws that are being broken with that. Yeah, this is worse than the 2012 NDAA, which if you guys didn't read that, I read it twice at one point way back in 13 or 14 because I didn't understand what was going on with it. And I was really questioning what Barack had pushed through. That If this current mindset continues, if we don't start becoming energy independent, what we're going to have is you're going to have less food on the table. You're going to have less options for your travel. You're going to have more poor choices put in front of you, and the choices you want are going to be out of reach because your money is being controlled. It's bad enough that now Biden is pushing the Secretary of the Treasury to invest in a mandated coin that will be tracked. So every transaction you have will be documented, will be traced. You'll never have physical money ever again. And we need to do a lot about this. But unfortunately, the people that are listening to this broadcast is not an army. The people listening to this broadcast are not within striking distance of Fredericksburg or other parts of Anaheim, where we could actually reach out and touch somebody. We're not those people. And I'm really not the type of person that wants to have a shooting war with the military industrial complex, which is so used to just being a glutton for money, chewing up every available tax dollar at no benefit to the American people. And we need help in America right now. This is the point where George Washington would be telling us to arm up. And if you guys don't understand that, I'm very sorry for you. And I'm very sorry for me and others in my position too, because we understand the founding documents and we understand what stake we are in right now. We have a military that's throwing out this, and we have the saber rattling against a man with cancer. As much as I appreciate Putin for being the leader he is and for loving Russia, we don't have that in America. We don't have an American counterpart to Putin. We don't have somebody who loves his country. We have a guy out there that all he can really do is go out there, hug women, and say, "I'm so sorry for your loss," and do a deep sniff. We have a cackling vice president that looks like she is 3 boxes of wine away from getting to Nancy Pelosiville. And Nancy Pelosi is nowhere near the competency level that an 82-year-old person should be if the other 2 heartbeats stop. As a nation, we're fucked. There's no pretty way to say it. All you really can do at this moment is just kind of smile, nod, and maybe tomorrow's going to give us some really good news. Maybe the Supreme Court's going to come out with more rejections of what's gone on before, because that's the only thing I could see that could happen that could help turn this around. I honestly feel that's probably the only hope we have, because until the November elections come, which nothing's changed, Dominion and Smartmatic are still out there, and they're going to try and push those machines in every state. The sham January 6th court, you guys understand what's going on with that. Not a single person that's testified for this January 6th insurrection has been anything but an anti-Trumper. They've done everything they can to slam the former president, and they've offered no ability for discussion to come up since. If you have a valid point that you could come up with, the moment you open your mouth about that, they would shut you down. And they have shut down people for that. They've shut down people and imprisoned them unlawfully, which goes against our founding documents. And nobody's talking about that in mainstream media news. The only place you find that is on the not so mainstream news. You have Ivory Hecker. You've got Lisa Haven. You have a lot of us in the fandom and the fellowship, which we pay attention to these small-time news people that go out there and they talk about 1 or 2 topics a day and they get the hell out. Yeah, it's going to turn into patriots shedding blood in the mud. And deep down, we all know it's coming. The only thing that's going to be able to save you guys is by getting enough reliable. Just look less coordinated than what you are, Bruce. That's the key. By having more of these than what the people that are facing you have, that's going to be the only way that we're going to be able to have a free nation. And we're not going to be able to out ammo ourselves if it comes down to us versus government. If it comes down to us versus splinter side of government, we might have a chance. But the majority of people that are out there don't want to have to do that, because that means I have to go out and buy a $329.99 plate carrier plus tax. I have to go out and buy a $170 outfit to kit up and have to get a few more magazines to throw shells and bullets in. A lot of people don't want to have to do that. They're wanting to vote their way out of this, which we won't be able to. Travis, it doesn't count unless you have photos. We are at a state in the game to where nowadays, pay attention to everything going on that you can, but don't let it get you down. We're building up to November. We're going to see how badly the electorate is damaged in November. I expect a red wave to be in certain states. I expect the House to probably shift to Republican control, which is good because that's the purse. I do not expect the Senate to shift hands. The Senate races that are coming up largely are going to be decided by states that still have the voting machines installed in them. And therefore, you're going to see fraud, lots of fraud. How do I know this? Because Governor Newsom is still in power. If California would have actually had a chance at democracy and they would have actually voted with living people, not with programs, not with ones and zeros, then you would have seen Larry Elder get installed as governor. No, you don't really need a plate carrier, but if a hard shiny object comes at you, one really helps. Yeah, and Epoch News and NTD News, they're pretty okay. I use Don Jr. has a thing called MXM News on my iPhone, and that's a really good curated network of news agencies. The No Agenda Show is terrific. Fortification. That's the last thing. A lot of you might not have extra money for this, but I'm going to tell you that if you can get some extra money into perishables or into non-perishable foods, if you can get some flour, if you can get some beans set aside, some rice, just a little bit for you to be set aside, do a little bit per paycheck, 20 or 10 or 20 bucks. You'll buy one thing, stash it, buy one thing, stash it. If you have a good week of bonuses at your job, if you're like Crafty that we know, if you have the ability to throw 500 bucks at a 3-month food supply, do it. Because we are going to be seeing some problems. If not this year, it'll be next year. Because next year, the fertilizer problem is going to rear its ugly head. You think food's at an ungodly price now. Right now is the time to overload on food that won't spoil. My Patriot Supply is good. There's other supply companies that are out there that sell prepper foods. I really recommend that. I can't recommend that enough. Do I have a supply of it? No. I only have about maybe 3 weeks of food supplies available. But like I said, every week, 10 or 20 bucks. Try to do that. Yeah, the Survival Podcast. It's good for this material as well. If you have the time in your budget to where you can listen to these guys, listen to them. At the very least, listen to what they have to say and add that to your toolkit, because you're going to need it. If everything continues to spiral downhill like this, 2022 is going to be a cakewalk. 2023 will be the hard year. A lot of people don't understand that. The reason I'm saying this is that fertilizer has been mostly cut off from a lot of world markets because 70% of it was created in the Ukraine and Russia. Where is the 70% of the food supply in the world going to get their fertilizer from? Fertilizer cost will skyrocket. You, already stretched out to your breaking point, have seen nothing. You're going to see food problems that our generation has only had nightmares about. And until something can change, look at the ratios in LA local news with respect to the unpopularity of C-19 policies on YouTube. The ratio of recall failed. Yeah, they have. But I'm telling you, I think that a lot of manufactured voting results will happen, Wes. I don't think it's going to be in our favor in a lot of areas. If California can avoid Smartmatic issues, if they can avoid all that, if they can install some actual grassroots organic voting, You're going to still have 50% of the electorate or less vote for blue no matter who. That's just how some populations are. You'll see hopefully this year, this next election cycle. I believe Ted Cruz is up for election. If he's not, my bad. But I would love to see him get primaried because he's losing his potency as a conservative. He's lost it for me. I don't like him nearly as much as I did in 2012. 10 years has gone by, and all he's done is prove to me that Goldman Sachs still controls his wallet. Reasons given for a recall failure. Popularity, yeah. His Newsom's COVID-19 policies have really socked California, and the state has had people vote with their feet because that's the worst thing that could happen. I think is where people that could afford to leave California did, and there's a good sizable chunk of the population that wants to leave that can't. That's the same thing as what's going on in Illinois. They would love to get away from J.D. Pritzker, and they'd love to get away from Lori Lightfoot, but they just can't afford to up and move, move family. That's a hard question for them, and they're not at that desperation point yet. They will be. Yeah. People are literally fleeing cities. There's some really great rep. There used to be some great reps out there. You, Connell, you have a problem with Boebert, which if you would read more up on Boebert, I think you would like her a lot. Palmy's Minion says, learn about gardening, learn about canning and gardening. If you can't afford to get prepper food, that's fine. Travis says, I don't buy any prepper food. I dehydrate everything on my own. I have a friend with a freeze dryer. Mostly I have rice and beans, and I supplement from there. Newsom is winning the recall vote. He's proof positive of the corruption, as you say. It is. And the thing is that if you would listen to what Newsom had planned to do with California, which was change nothing he was doing. He was continuing his iron grip on it. This is what's going on in California to me is not a surprise. McClintock is a good rep from Cali. Yeah, McClintock is. He says, I don't vote for women. All right. Well, yeah, and if you guys can get a hold of a generator, right now, Lowe's is still selling a lot of small generators for about $1,300, $1,400. They during the snowvid, during last year's February winter apocalypse that Texas had, we had a availability for between $1,100 to $1,300 for a small generator, which would keep you going just as long as you have gasoline for it. Yeah, this right here, we'll talk about this next week. I need to have another week of prep on this because Newsom had a day where he was walking around the White House with his jacket off, and he was in plain view of everybody and every camera around. They really liked him on camera, and I'm wondering if he's going to be going up against Pritzker in the primary versus Joe Biden. And I wonder what's going to exactly happen because right now, as much as Joe Biden's feckless and ineffective, the current handlers of everything don't care. Yeah, everything. Yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Awesome one. There's some areas where that's San Francisco. Well, like I said, if you read about Lauren Boebert and understand who she is and where she came from, you could definitely. Yeah, and whatever Cass says, he has a generator. You can get a small generator, which will keep your computer going. It'll keep your refrigerator up. It'll keep your oven up. If you have other products that you don't need to have the big oven going on, you need to have your refrigerator, icebox chilled, of course. Fortunately, we still have a cattle ranch. The drought is hurting us, but we can feed quite a few people, and those are all everybody we have feeding. They're all armed. Yeah, repeal the 19th Amendment. That is kind of important right there. Ready for outages. I hope it doesn't happen that way. I really hope that does not happen to you. Fuck Newsom, of course. Look up HHO for generators makes gas obsolete for small engines. Okay. All right. Skinny, he is going to be replacing Kamala as VP, and then he runs for president. Well, they still like Biden quite a bit, and they don't want somebody to not read the text they give him, not read the notes they give him, and follow through with it. Now, Biden's problem is that he's just kind of, and that's clearly printed. Now sit down. Now read this. Now repeat this. And he says, repeat last phrase. And that this is a real issue. You know, I mean, we have a president that he can't function by himself without notes. If you can get away with a solar battery for mobile devices, that'd be great. That really would. HHO things are work. Me, my wife, and my kids experimented with this. All right. We would like to thank everybody for stopping by tonight and for hanging out with us. Got 15 people just kind of hanging out in chat. And I want to tell you guys that thank you for being here. I just had a few things I needed to discuss. I had to finally get my complete full thoughts out about the SCOTUS, about Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the greatest minds for legal matters we've had probably in 100 years. If you've done your research, you'll see that when he filled the slot, he actually brought the Supreme Court up a few notches. And I want to say that he has helped bring a little bit of sanity to the Supreme Court. For those of you that are pro-abortion, I'm not pro-abortion, but I want to tell you that if you want abortion, I don't care. I don't. I don't think it's right, but it's not affecting my life nearly that much. I feel that we have lost ourselves with abortion and with the slaughter of children. And for those of you that live in Illinois or California, your state will see some business from that. For those of you that live in abortion sanctuary cities, you're going to see some money come in from big companies. Yeah, Justice Thomas, I love that man. Sam Alito's great too. I thought that Amy Coney Barrett would be great, but she's kind of like a middle of the road lady, and I need about another 6 months of studying her to figure out what's going on. And listen, guys, this right here, backup chargers. Get a couple backup chargers for your phone. This is very important for those of you that use your phone consistently as a primary means of communication. You don't use laptops, don't use tablets. A backup charger will help save your ass, especially if you have a breakdown in the middle of nowhere. For everybody, God bless you. Be peace with you, and don't be caught off guard, because when things start to slide down a hill, they're going to not be slow and steady about it. It's going to hit all at once. And if you didn't understand what happened last March of 2020, when everything ceased, when everything stopped, people were caught with their pants down. And now we have a better grasp of what level they're willing to do. Now they're trying to get the masks back nationwide. So we knew this was going to start happening. We knew that California would be first to adopt back mask policies. Whatever you can afford to get your family ready to go, please do that. Yeah, and this right here, this is really important. They refused to look at the evidence of the election fraud because Justice, I believe, what's the head piece of shit Supreme Court justice? He was scared of the riots. He was worried that society would rattle itself apart. Instead of them looking at things lawfully and knowing that people would reign with law being supreme after a few days, they were worried about the initial panic and rioting, which instead he didn't do it. And I really got upset about that. Clarence Thomas probably did want to proceed and look at the election fraud, because I know that deep in his heart, he knew this would be happening with Joe Biden at the helm. The sanctity of life itself is only commodity. Exactly. All Our state's going to get a ton of degenerates flooding back into it to kill their own kids. Yes. All right. Everybody, be well. Have a great night. Keep your head up and keep your head on a swivel. I'll be back to talk to you about this sort of thing next Sunday night. Thank you so much.